Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm so thrilled you're here for a story that'll grab your heart and hold it tight for hours. This is a tale of love, betrayal, secrets, and the kind of redemption that changes lives forever. It's a long one, so grab a cozy blanket, a big mug of tea or coffee, maybe some snacks, and settle in. My name is Antonia Brooks. I'm 71 years old, and this is the story of how I saved my daughter. Not with money, but with a lesson that rebuilt our family. Let's walk through my world together. 6 months ago, I lost my husband, Robert, to a heart attack. We'd been married 45 years, sharing every morning with coffee, toast, and his gentle kiss on my forehead. "Good morning, my love," he'd say, his voice warm like the sun rising over Willow Creek, Oregon. That's how it was the morning he died, right at our kitchen table, his coffee still steaming, his hand resting on the wood, his wedding ring catching the light. I can still see him there, his gray hair mussed from sleep, his eyes crinkling with that quiet smile. Losing him broke something in me. The world turned gray, like someone drained the color from my life. Our little house on Maple Street felt too big, the kitchen too quiet. I'd sit in his chair, tracing the scratches he'd made carving pumpkins with our daughter Angela when she was little. Grief was like a heavy coat I couldn't take off, weighing me down every step. Angela, my only child, was 45, married to a man named Edward, and she seemed to step up after Robert's death. She'd drive over 3 times a week, her dark hair pulled back, her smile soft like it was when she was a girl. She helped plan the funeral, picked out flowers Robert would have loved, daisies, always daisies. She'd bring groceries, stack them in my fridge, and say, "Mom, you gotta eat. You're alone now. You need to take care of yourself." Her voice was kind, her hugs warm, and I leaned on her, thinking she was my rock. I'd tell her stories about her dad, how he'd dance with me in the kitchen. No music, just his arms around me. How he'd fix the porch swing when it creaked. How he'd read to her at night, his voice deep and steady. She'd nod, listen, and I felt we were close again, like when she'd curl up in my lap as a kid. I was so wrong. Angela had always been a dreamer, even as a little girl. She'd drop pictures of big houses with chandeliers, fancy cars, a life far beyond our modest home in Willow Creek. Robert and I were simple. He drove a bus for 40 years. I sewed dresses part-time at Clara's shop. We gave Angela everything we could. Piano lessons, a college fund, a wedding with white roses, and a band she picked. She married Edward, a real estate agent with slick suits and big promises. He'd talk about flipping houses, making millions, and Angela ate it up, her eyes sparkling like they did when she was 10, dreaming of Paris. I thought she'd grown out of it, settled into loving us for who we were, a bus driver and a seamstress who loved her fiercely. But that Tuesday, in the doctor's waiting room, I learned the truth. I was sitting on a hard green plastic chair, the kind that sticks to your legs in summer. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic, sharp and cold, and people around me coughed or flipped through magazines so old the pages curled. The clock on the wall ticked too loud, like it was counting down to something. My knees ached, my hands folded in my lap, waiting for a checkup I barely cared about. My phone buzzed, Angela's name lighting up the screen. I answered, expecting her to ask about my appointment, maybe tell me she was bringing dinner. Her voice was different, cold, sharp, like she was reading a grocery list. "Mom, we're going to Europe tomorrow. I sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." She hung up, just like that. I sat there, the phone heavy in my hand, the waiting room fading to a blur. My heart pounded, but my body was still, like time had stopped. 45 years I'd raised her, poured my soul into her, sacrificed everything, and she threw me away like an old receipt. That beach house wasn't just a house. It was our sanctuary, our heart. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15, scraping together every penny we had. It was a small place by the ocean with creaky wooden floors, a porch Robert built with his own hands, and windows that let in the salt air. We spent summers there, grilling fish on the barbecue, celebrating birthdays with cake and laughter, decorating a tiny Christmas tree with lights that flickered. Angela brought her high school boyfriends, then Edward, and I'd cook for them. Spaghetti, apple pie, roast chicken, cleaning the dishes while they laughed on the porch. I'd make the beds, sweep the sand, make it a home. The car was Robert's cherry red Ford pickup, his pride and joy. He washed it every Sunday, changed the oil like clockwork, parked it under the oak tree by our house. His scent, coffee and aftershave, lingered in the seats, like he was still there, driving us to the beach. Angela knew what they meant. She knew, and she sold them anyway. I should have cried, screamed, called her back and demanded answers, but I didn't. A strange calm settled over me, like the quiet after a storm, because in that moment, I remembered something I'd forgotten in the fog of grief. 3 days before Robert died, he handed me a manila envelope in our bedroom. His eyes were serious, his voice low. "Antonia, put this in your dresser. If something happens to me, open it when you're ready." I tucked it away without a second thought, too lost in the everyday, making his coffee, folding his shirts. But now, sitting in that waiting room, the envelope was all I could think about. It was like Robert was whispering to me across time, telling me to go look, to find something he'd left behind. The doctor saw me, checked my blood pressure, said I was healthy for 71, just needed to rest more, eat better. I nodded, barely listening, my mind on that envelope. I took the bus home, Angela sold my car after all, and watched Willow Creek pass by. The diner with its neon sign, the hardware store, the houses with tidy lawns. Willow Creek was a small town, the kind where neighbors wave, where the ocean's hum is never far away. That day it felt different, like the world was holding its breath, waiting for me to act. I felt a spark, maybe hope, maybe justice. Angela thought she left me with nothing, broken and alone. She was about to learn how wrong she was. At home, I went straight to my dresser, pushing aside scarves, old letters, a photo of Angela as a toddler, her cheeks sticky with ice cream. The envelope was there, my name in Robert's neat handwriting, the kind he used for grocery lists and love notes tucked in my purse. My hand shook as I opened it, sitting on the bed we'd shared for 45 years, the quilt Clara's mom made still soft under my fingers. Inside were papers, deeds, bank statements, a letter. I read the letter first, my eyes stinging, my breath catching. "My dear Antonia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for keeping secrets, but I wanted to protect you from worry. Over the years, I invested our savings. We don't just have the beach house. We have 6 other properties, including the apartment building where Angela and Edward live. We have shares in 3 companies. Tech, real estate, a shipping firm. You're rich, my love. Not just in heart, but on paper, too." I couldn't believe it. Deeds to 2 houses in Willow Creek, 1 in Portland, a condo downtown, a small motel by the coast, and the 20-story apartment building where Angela and Edward lived in a fancy penthouse. Bank statements showed accounts with numbers that looked like a mistake. Millions, more than I could have imagined. Robert, my Robert, a bus driver who'd come home with grease on his hands, had been a quiet genius. He'd sit at our kitchen table reading stock reports while I thought he was doing crosswords. He'd bought properties when prices were low, invested in companies before they grew. He'd kept it secret to protect me and to protect Angela. If she knew we had this much money, her attitude might change. I want her to love us for who we are, not what we have. Use this wisely, my love. Save her if she needs saving. The irony hit me like a wave, crashing over me, pulling me under. Angela thought she'd taken everything from me, our home, our memories, my last connection to Robert. But I had everything. I could have called a lawyer right then, gotten the beach house back, confronted Angela with the truth, but that wouldn't teach her anything. She'd sold my sanctuary, my husband's pride, without a second thought, like they were nothing. She needed to learn what she'd thrown away, not just a house or a car, but family, respect, and love. So I decided to play the part she expected, a poor, broken widow abandoned by her only child. I'd let her think she'd won, let her face the consequences, and teach her a lesson she'd carry forever. I called Mr. Peterson, Robert's lawyer, a man with a kind voice and an office cluttered with files and coffee mugs. I'd met him after the funeral, signing papers I barely understood. Now I told him about the envelope, the deeds, the accounts, Angela's betrayal. "Mrs. Brooks," he said, his voice stunned, "this is extraordinary. You own all of this, and Angela's sale of the beach house was illegal. It's in your name, not hers.
We can reverse it immediately. File charges if you want. I took a deep breath, my hands steady on the phone. No, Mr. Peterson. Do it quietly. Get the beach house back. Take control of all the properties, especially Angela's building. Set up a company. Call it Robert Investments to manage everything. But no one can know it's me. Not yet. He paused, his breath crackling through the phone. You're the client, Mrs. Brooks. I'll make it happen. For weeks, I lived a double life, and it wasn't easy. To my neighbors, I was the sad old lady everyone pitied, the widow who'd lost her husband and now her home. Aurora, my friend from across the street, stopped by one afternoon while I was watering my roses, the ones Robert planted when we moved in. Her gray hair was tied back, her eyes soft with worry, her hands carrying a casserole. Antonia, how are you going to live? She asked, setting the dish on my porch. You don't have the beach house or your car anymore. What did Angela do to you? I smiled, clipping a rose, the petals soft against my fingers. I'll be fine, Aurora, I said, my voice calm. She hugged me, thinking I was brave, but really I was planning. Inside, I was building a lesson Angela would never forget. I'd walk to the grocery store, nodding at neighbors who whispered about my poor situation, their eyes full of pity. Then I'd come home, close the curtains, and call Mr. Peterson, checking on his progress. The beach house is almost back in your name. We're transferring the properties to Robert Investments. Angela's building is under our control. I thanked him, my heart racing, not with anger, but with purpose. Angela was about to come home, and the lesson was about to begin. 3 weeks later, Aurora ran across the street, her slippers slapping the pavement, her eyes wide with gossip. Antonia, you won't believe this, she said, catching her breath on my porch. Edward's in trouble with the bank. He used Angela's apartment as collateral for loans, but it's not his to use. They're investigating him, and Angela's back in town, alone. I nodded, keeping my face neutral, stirring sugar into my tea. That's news, I said, but inside I smiled. My plan was falling into place, piece by piece. Robert Investments, the company Mr. Peterson set up, had sent the eviction notice, just as I'd asked. I thanked her, sent her home with a slice of my lemon cake, and waited. I knew Angela would call soon. She always did when she needed something. That night, my phone rang, the screen glowing in the dark kitchen. It was Angela, her voice small, broken, nothing like the cold tone from the doctor's office. Mom, I'm back in Willow Creek, she said, her words shaky. Edward lied to me. There was no business in Europe. He ran off with another woman, left me with nothing but debts. And I got this eviction notice from some company called Robert Investments. Mom, can I come home? My heart twisted hearing her sound so lost, like the little girl who'd cry when she fell off her bike. I wanted to hold her, tell her it would be okay, but I couldn't, not yet. Of course, honey, I said, my voice steady. Come home. She showed up the next day, dragging 2 suitcases and a cardboard box, looking like a shadow of herself, pale, thin, her fancy clothes wrinkled, her dark hair tangled, her eyes red from crying. She hugged me, her shoulders shaking, and I felt her need me, raw and desperate. I hugged her back, my arms tight, but not just as her mom. I was her teacher now, and the lesson was just beginning. Angela moved into her old bedroom, the one she had as a teenager, with pink curtains faded from the sun, posters of Bay Boys still taped to the walls. She was humiliated, unpacking her small life in a room full of memories, her old diary, a stuffed bear Robert won at a fair, a photo of us at the beach house, smiling under the sun. She'd sit on the bed, staring at the floor, barely speaking, her hands twisting in her lap. I'd bring her tea, sit with her, but she'd avoid my eyes, ashamed. One evening, she came to the kitchen, holding another envelope, my name in Robert's handwriting, the sight of it like a punch to my chest. She found this among Edward's things, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Maybe he took it from Dad's stuff after he died. Inside was a key and a short note. Antonia, if you're reading this after the main envelope, Angela's in trouble. This key opens a safety deposit box at Willow Creek Bank, number 247. There's something there to help her, but use it wisely. With eternal love, Robert. I held the note, feeling Robert's love across time, his foresight like a hand guiding me. He knew Angela might falter, knew I'd need to save her in a way that lasted. We went to the bank the next day, Angela quiet in the passenger seat, her hands clutching her purse. The bank was old, with marble floors and a clerk who knew my name. We opened box 247, and inside were jewels. Rings, necklaces, bracelets, some from Robert's mother with sapphires and gold, others he'd bought for me, diamonds sparkling under the light. A letter listed their value, $200,000. Angela's eyes lit up, a flicker of her old self, the dreamer who saw money as the answer. Mom, we could sell these to pay Edward's debts, she said, her voice desperate, her hands trembling. I nodded, letting her think it was our only way out. I watched her spread the jewels on my kitchen table that night, making a list with a pen that shook, calculating which ones to sell, turning our family history into numbers. It hurt, seeing her reduce Robert's love to dollar signs, but it was part of the plan. I needed her to feel the weight of her choices before she could change. Angela took a job cleaning offices at night, far cry from the penthouse life she'd chased with Edward. She'd leave at dusk, her uniform stiff, her face tired before she even started. She'd come home at midnight, her feet swollen, her hands rough from bleach, collapsing into a chair with a glass of water. I have to do this, Mom, she said one night, her voice firm despite her exhaustion. I can't be a burden to you. I'd nod, pouring her tea, my heart aching but steady. She told me about Mrs. Johnson, a woman she worked with who'd been cleaning for 20 years after her husband left her with 3 kids. Mrs. Johnson was 60, with gray braids and a laugh that filled the room, but her hands were calloused, her back bent from years of scrubbing floors. She asked me if I'm here because I never had a chance or because I threw it away. Angela said, her eyes on the table, her voice quiet. I told her the truth. I had everything, a family who loved me, a home, a mom and dad who gave me the world, and I threw it all away for Edward, for a lie. Her words were raw, her eyes wet, and I saw something new, a crack in her pride, a glimpse of the girl I'd raised, the one who'd run to me when thunderstorms scared her.
Her words hit me hard, like a wave pulling me under. She was starting to see what she'd done, but she wasn't there yet. She needed to feel the full weight of her choices, to understand what she'd lost, not just money, but the love we'd poured into her. So I kept my secret, letting her struggle, letting her learn. I'd watch her leave for work, her shoulders slumped, her steps heavy, and I'd sit in Robert's chair, talking to him in my head. Am I doing the right thing? I'd ask, my fingers tracing the armrests he'd worn smooth. I'd feel his answer, a quiet nod, telling me to keep going, to trust the plan. I'd walk to the diner some mornings, passing neighbors who'd wave or offer condolences, their eyes full of pity. Poor Antonia, they'd whisper, thinking I was alone, penniless. I'd smile, say, I'm getting by, and keep my secret close, like a letter in my pocket. Mr. Peterson worked behind the scenes, his calls a steady rhythm in my days. He got the beach house back, nullifying the sale with papers that proved it was mine, always mine. He dug into Edward's mess, found proof he'd forged Angela's signature on loans, meaning she wasn't responsible for his debts. I told him to hold off telling her. I wanted her to hit rock bottom, to understand what she'd thrown away, not just a house or a car, but the trust we'd built her, the love we'd given her. One morning, Angela burst into the kitchen, an eviction notice from Robert Investments clutched in her hand, her face pale, her eyes wild. "Mom, it's from some company I've never heard of," she said, pacing, her voice breaking. "Edward's gone, his debts are crushing me, and now I'm losing my apartment. I don't know what to do." I acted confused, stirring my coffee, the spoon clinking against the mug. "That's strange, honey," I said. "Have you called a lawyer?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I can't afford one," she said, her voice small, like a child's. I offered to take her to Mr. Peterson, saying he might help for free, a favor for an old friend of Robert's. She agreed, scared, expecting more bad news. We drove to his office downtown, a small place with stacks of files, a coffee pot brewing, and a window overlooking Willow Creek's main street. Angela clutched her purse, her knuckles white, her eyes darting like a trapped animal. Mr. Peterson sat across from us, his tie slightly crooked, his voice calm. He handed Angela a folder, his eyes soft but steady. "Ms. Brooks, you're free from Edward's debts. We found evidence he forged your signature on those loans. They're not your responsibility." Angela's jaw dropped, her breath catching, relief flooding her face. Then I took a deep breath, my heart steady, and said, "Angela, there's more. Your father left me a fortune, houses, investments, the building you lived in. I've known since you called me from the doctor's office." She stared at me, tears spilling over, her voice breaking like glass. "You knew? You let me struggle, Mom? Why?" Her hands shook, her eyes searching mine. But I stayed calm, my hands folded on the table, the way Robert used to sit when he had something important to say. "Because you needed to learn what you threw away," I said, my voice soft but firm. "Not just money, family, respect, love. You treated me like I was nothing, sold our memories like they were trash. But I never stopped loving you. I saved you by letting you save yourself." She sobbed, not from self-pity, but from a deep understanding, like a weight lifting off her shoulders. "I abandoned you when you needed me most," she said, her voice raw, "and you saved me anyway." Mr. Peterson cleared his throat, his eyes glistening. "Your mother paid all the legal costs, got the beach house back, everything. You're free, Angela." Angela reached for my hand, her fingers trembling, and I squeezed hers, feeling the years between us shift, like a bridge rebuilding itself. She looked at me, her eyes different now, not just a daughter needing her mom, but a woman seeing me for the first time, as a mother, a strategist, a woman who'd outsmarted her betrayal. We drove home silently, the air heavy with something new, hope, understanding, maybe even forgiveness. That night she sat at the kitchen table, her cleaning uniform still on, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "Mom, I'm keeping my job," she said, her voice steady. "It's not about guilt. It's about dignity. I need to know I can stand on my own, that I'm not the person who sold you out." I nodded, my heart swelling, seeing the girl I'd raised starting to come back, stronger, wiser. Angela enrolled in social work school a few weeks later, paying for it with her cleaning job earnings, determined to earn her way. She'd come home from classes, her notebooks filled with ideas, her eyes bright with purpose. She'd talk about helping people, about understanding their pain, and I'd listen, stirring soup on the stove, feeling Robert's presence in the room. One afternoon, we drove to the beach house, the first time since I'd gotten it back. The ocean was calm, the air salty, the porch creaky as ever. Angela stood in the driveway, staring at the house, her hands in her pockets. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she said, her voice thick with tears. "Not just for selling it, but for turning our memories into money. I didn't feel anything then. Now I feel Dad everywhere. His laughter, his coffee, his glasses on the table, the way he'd hum while fixing the porch." Her words brought tears to my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I hugged her,
my arms tight, and we spent the day there, cleaning, cooking, remembering. We made spaghetti like we used to, and laughed over old stories, Angela spilling juice at her 10th birthday, Robert pretending to be mad, then winking at me. It was like stitching up an old wound, thread by thread, slow and careful. Angela had an idea that evening, as we sat on the porch, the sun setting over the ocean, painting the sky pink and gold. "Mom, let's turn this house into a shelter for women escaping bad situations," she said, her voice alive with purpose. "A place where they can start over, find their strength, like I did." I loved it, the idea sparking something in me, like Robert's hand on my shoulder. He always said a house isn't a home until you share it with people who need love. We used some of the fortune to start a foundation, and Angela took charge, her social work classes giving her the tools to help women like her, women who'd lost everything and needed a hand up. She'd meet with them, listen to their stories, help them find jobs, apartments, hope. Her hands steady now, her eyes clear. One night, we sat on the porch, the ocean whispering in the dark, the air cool against our skin. Angela looked at me, her face softer now, wiser, the lines of worry gone. "Mom, true love doesn't just make you feel good, it teaches you even when it hurts. You showed me wealth isn't money, it's family, effort, respect, the people who stay when you've got nothing." I looked at the stars, feeling Robert close, his presence in the breeze, the waves, the quiet of the night. "We did it, my love," I whispered, my voice catching. He always knew we were stronger than we thought, that love could build something unbreakable. Months passed, and Angela finished her social work degree, top of the class, her diploma framed on her bedroom wall. She kept her cleaning job for a while, saying it grounded her, kept her honest. She used her earnings to help Mrs. Johnson pay for her son's daycare, a small act the old Angela would have never considered. Aurora stopped by one day, sipping tea in my kitchen, her eyes twinkling with gossip. "Antonia, people are talking," she said, grinning. "They say you're not the poor widow we thought. They saw Angela at a fancy lawyer's office, and now she's running a shelter. What's going on?" I laughed, pouring her more tea, the steam rising between us. I told her the truth. Robert's fortune, my plan, Angela's change. "You're the wisest mother I know," Aurora said, her voice warm. "You didn't just save her, you made her better, and you're helping all those women at the shelter." Angela got a letter from Edward, sent from a prison in France. He'd been caught in a fake marriage scam, sentenced to 2 years, his charm finally failing him. He begged for forgiveness, saying he was sorry for the lies, the debts, the betrayal. Angela read it, then set it aside, her face calm, her eyes steady. "She don't feel anything," she told me, folding the letter into a drawer. "That part of my life is gone." She didn't write back. She was done with him, done with the woman who sold her family for a lie. Now she was a woman who valued what mattered. Family, effort, the people who stay when the money ran out. Every Sunday we go to the beach house, working on the shelter, helping women rebuild their lives. Angela's different now, calm, strong, someone who earns her place. She'll sit with the women, listen to their fears, help them find jobs, apartments, hope. She's not just my daughter anymore. She's a leader, a partner. One night, as we ate dinner on the porch, the waves crashing softly, the air smelling of salt and pine, she said, "Mom, I'm staying here, not as your kid, but as your partner. I want to pay my share. Treat you like the strong woman you are, the one who saved me by letting me fall." I smiled, my heart full, the weight of grief lighter than it had been in years. We weren't just mother and daughter anymore. We were 2 women who'd chosen each other, built on love, respect, and lessons hard learned.
I still talk to Robert sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and the stars are out, bright over Willow Creek. I tell him we did it, that our daughter learned what truly matters, family, effort, love. And I swear, under those stars, I hear him answer, his voice soft like the ocean. "I always knew you would, my love. You're both stronger than you think. I keep his letter on my nightstand, his words a reminder of who we were, who we are. "You're rich, my love," he wrote, and I know he didn't just mean money. He meant the love we built, the family we raised, the lessons we passed on. Justice came, not as revenge, but as a lesson, not as punishment, but as change. Angela and I found something more valuable than money, a bond nothing could break. We'd sit on that porch, the ocean singing its old song, and I'd feel Robert there, his hand on mine, his voice in the wind. We'd made it through, not because of money, but because of love, the kind that doesn't give up, the kind that teaches, the kind that lasts forever. I think about Angela as a little girl running on the beach, her laughter mixing with the waves, her small hand in mine. I think about Robert, his quiet strength, his secret plan to protect us, his love stitched into every moment. And I think about me, a woman who thought she'd lost everything, only to find she had everything she needed to save her daughter. Life's funny that way. It takes you apart, then puts you back together, stronger, wiser, whole. Angela and I still have our moments. She'll snap when she's tired, and I'll remind her to breathe. But then she'll laugh, hug me, and say, "You're still teaching me, Mom." And I am, because love doesn't stop teaching, not ever. The shelter's growing, filled with women starting over, women like Angela, women like me. We're building something now, not just a place, but a legacy. Robert's, mine, Angela's. Every time I see Angela help a woman find her strength, I know we did it right. I read Robert's letter when I miss him most, when the house feels too quiet, the stars too far. "You're rich, my love," he wrote, and I feel it in the laughter at the shelter, in Angela's steady hands, in the bond we've rebuilt. We're rich in ways no one can take away. Wow, what a journey, right? Did I do the right thing letting Angela hit rock bottom to learn her lesson? Or should I have helped her sooner? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. Have you ever had to teach someone a tough lesson or learned one yourself? Share your stories. I read every single one. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more life stories that make you feel. Don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss a video. And if you want to support us, a super thanks goes a long way to keep these stories coming. Thank you for being here, you amazing people. With love and respect, I'll see you in the next life story.